Hey guys, I'm Kim and this is Honey Trail Farm, and as you can see I've been really busy, and when I get busy I do not think about picking up a camera, which is a big problem when you have a YouTube channel. But almost all of these are flower seeds. These are my cool flowers that I was talking about that I was gonna sow, and I sowed those last week and they're really starting to germinate. I don't have a great bottom heat source in the greenhouse, and obviously this is too much for like a heat mat. I'm using heat cables. You can buy them on Amazon. It's like roof de-icing cables, and they work okay, but when your pallets have holes in them to the ground, they don't work the best. It does not keep all the heat up. But nevertheless, these are things that like the cool weather, so they're fine germinating in a little bit of cooler soil. Because I have them in these 10-20 trays and I'm using my 35 stand-up blocker, which makes 105 per tray. When the sun is out and we've had some sunny days, it really heats up the surface of the tray efficiently enough to warm up the soil to that. Plants usually, no matter if they're cold or not, there's always some exceptions, but seeds usually like to germinate at about 70-75 degrees. And so with the sun in here and it gets hot in here real quick, I'm not having a very big problem with germination, even if I'm doing it subpar. Now down here is my little grouping of stuff that has germinated. So I have spinach, which has no problem germinating in the cold. I have lettuce, which I'm having shoddy germination on my lettuce, but they were older seeds, and lettuce is one of the few things that the germination really starts to decline if it's a year, if it's older. Sorry, I just had a stroke. Agrostemma, super readily germinated. That was the first to germinate. I've got cress up, bachelor button, this one that has no label that's a surprise, stalk is up, and my sweet peas. You can't see any sign of them being awake, but if I show you up close, so you can see this little guy right here. If I move the soil away, you can see his little germination tail. I don't know if I'm too close. Right there. So I know that I'm gonna get germination out of these. Sorry, I just hit the camera. I know in my last video or a previous video, and all these trays are made with a 35 blocker. But right now, I'm getting ready to start my greenhouse tomatoes, which is super exciting because that means summer's coming. So I'm gonna be starting my greenhouse tomatoes today and my outside peppers. I like to start those at the end of February because they take forever to grow. Peppers are just slow growers. And last year, I feel like I started at the beginning of March, and I wished that I would have started them a week or two earlier just because my starts were smaller when I put them in, and I want like a bigger, healthier plant. Not that they weren't healthy, they just were smaller. So how I'm doing that is because I'm starting so many at a time, and tomatoes and peppers really appreciate bottom heat more so than these cool flowers. I felt comfortable just doing them in the big trays. I'm starting, you can have this back in a minute. I'm starting my tomatoes and peppers because I'm starting hundreds. Well, more than that. If you add them all together, over 1,000, for sure, over 1,000. But I'm using the little blocker. That way I can fit a lot on a heat mat. So I can fit 240 little squares in a 10-20 tray, and then my bigger heat mat fits 5 trays. I think 5 or 6 trays on there. So multiply that by 240 and I could fit almost all the starts that I'm going to start in one area. And then once they come up, I will pot them up. But I used to do this when I was just a home gardener. I would just take like a cup I don't have any around me, or like a little pot, and I would fill it like this full at the bottom so that the soil would warm up, because if you fill the cup all the way, the top where your seed is definitely not as warm as the bottom. So you want to start with like a little bit of soil in the bottom of your cup, and then I would just willy-nilly sprinkle seeds in there and then prick out the ones that I wanted to plant up, which ended up being all the plants that germinated, because I cannot stand the thought of killing a plant. So, but now that I need specific amounts, I have to be a little bit more careful, or think about it a little more when I'm starting them. So I like the little blocker for this, just because I know that there's for sure 20, and then I can count up the amount that I need, so that I know that I'm not sowing way too much or not enough. Because while I do love heirloom tomatoes, and I grow so many heirloom tomatoes, mostly outside, I am saving my inside tunnel space for greenhouse varieties of tomatoes. Ones that are bred to really be vigorous, disease resistant, and produce a ton, because that space is worth a lot of money. So I want to make sure that I'm getting the amounts out of it. My thought process for starting my greenhouse tomatoes, and by the way, I'm going to make, ever since I've had a YouTube channel, which is a couple years now, this will be my third video of tomatoes I like to grow, because I'm just a tomato lady. I love tomatoes. I love all the different kinds. So I will be, you like tomatoes too? I will be doing an official tomatoes I'm growing this year, but I'll just give you the little rundown right now. For the greenhouse varieties I'm growing, I'm thinking I'm just going with red tomatoes, yellow tomatoes, and then a dark tomato. To be honest, most people don't know the varieties that you're planting anyway. Last year, the red tomato that I did, like the beefsteak, I really liked it. It's called Marbone from Johnny's. Produced a ton. They were happy, they were healthy. This tunnel that I'm in right now, I am not planting any tomatoes in this year. It gets so hot in here. And you really want to think about prevailing winds when you're setting up tunnels, and I didn't think about that with this tunnel. And so the air just doesn't naturally flow through it. There's not a whole lot of ventilation, and so it gets really hot in here. So I'm going to plant all my tomatoes in the big tunnels, and they're much more ventilated. But anyway, I'm going to be planting Marbone. I'm trying a new one called Cayman, or new to me. It's a red slicer. A new yellow variety called Harvest Moon. I got that from Johnny's. And then a dark tomato, kind of a play on the Cherokee Purple, is the hybrid version, and it's called Cherokee Carbon. And that's my game plan. And then of course I'm doing cherries, and I like to do all different colors of cherries. So I liked the Sakura that I tried last year. That's a hybrid from, you can get it a lot of places, but I think I got mine from Johnny's. Sun Gold, you have to, that's our favorite cherry tomato. Black cherry, and I really liked Lucky Tiger last year. I know that's an heirloom, that one, and black cherry, but cherry tomatoes produce a ton anyway. I told him to get dressed and come outside because it's a beautiful day, and he had on pajama pants and a tank top, which is appropriate if you're inside this 85-degree greenhouse, but the 50 degrees outside is not really tank top weather. I am just really excited. For one, I am not a wintertime person at all. I wait and wait and wait on spring, and then it seems like it always just comes out of nowhere, kind of, because springtime on a farm is just a crazy busy season. And I know I'm not behind, but why does the little voice in my head all the time say, oh my gosh, you're so behind? Hurry up. That's what the voice in my head is saying. But in reality, it's fine. gonna be fine. So besides the tomatoes and peppers that I'm gonna sow today, which I pre-made the trays, and then I'm just gonna sit inside and sow them because I'm gonna put my heat mat inside anyway. So, but outside, because these are cooler weather things and they can handle some cold temperatures, and they can germinate in cooler soil temperatures too. I need to start all of my leeks and onions. I've never successfully grown leeks. I think last year I tried and I fried the tray because when you have so many, you do kill things. So you have a higher success rate when you grow a lot, but you also have a higher failure rate, and that's just something you gotta live with. But I have American flag leek and King Richard leeks, and how I'm gonna sow these. So today's episode, if you will, is a little bit about how I save space. And another way I save space on things like onions and leeks is I'm going to plant them in this bigger, usually I would do a 10-20 tray, but last year I tried this and I really liked it. I wish I could find the shorter, I have a basket that has shorter sides, but I think this will still be okay. But there's just more room in here because I'm gonna sow every single leek seed I have because I might as well. These don't, in the allium family, seeds don't tend to last very long. Like, they don't store well. And so I might as well use them if I got them. Besides that, you know, the more you sow, the better success rate you have, right? But what I'm going to do is I am just going to sow them straight into here, and I'm just going to make like little divot rows. What is this? It's old soil and it has algae. I'm going to toss that. So I'm just going to sow them into rows. To be honest, you could just sprinkle them in here as well. And I'm just going to let them grow just like this until it's time to plant them out, at which point I will just rip them from their home and plant them in the ground. I love leeks. I got them at the grocery store for the first time a while ago. By a while, I mean years. Because I'd never had them. You know, growing up, we didn't adventure into different vegetables. We always just ate the same thing. But now that I'm an adult, I get to pick what I eat, and I'm excited to have different stuff. Okay, so I basically just sprinkle these in and then just firm the seeds in and wait for them to pop up. It's just that easy. And then as for the onions that I'm planting this year, I'm going to multi-sow all of my onions. So this isn't a new thing, but Charles Dowding really is the one that made it popular, I think. And it's basically just multiple plants together. So I did an experiment last year where I planted out individual onions, like traditionally how you plant them, spaced 6 inches apart, all by themselves. And then I planted about half a row of multi-sown, which had about 3 on average, 3 to 4 onions per block, like per planting block. And little to no difference in size at all, especially if you're going for marketable size. You don't want giant onions because they cost more, really, because they're taking up more space and more time. So you want like an average medium size, and for that I feel like multi-sown was the way to go. And then you end up fitting more in a smaller space, which works out great. But I really am expanding my onion horizons this year because why not? Last year, I can't remember what I grew exactly last year, but I know that I only had yellow onions. And it was, I know I planted Patterson. I really liked it. That's a storage onion. I am still eating onions that I harvested in August or September of last year, and it's the end of February now, and I'm still eating onions out of my stash. So I'm excited for these. And then I got a red onion. This is the red carpet onion from Johnny's because I like a spicy onion and I was missing the red. I think I bought these when My Gardener at the end of last season was having a sale. Red long of Tropia onion because it looked fun. And then I'm trying shallots for the first time. I've never had a shallot, but I'm gonna plant 1,000 of them because why not? And this shallot in particular is called creme brulee. Like I said, I've never had a shallot, so I cannot comment on the qualities that I like about it because I don't know if I like anything about it, but people seem to like them, and you can't really buy them in stores, so I feel like a customer would be excited about it. And then I'm planting bunching onions, which is like a spring onion, which you just use the tops. I have the Nabucco Evergreen and also a hybrid version called Nabechan or something. I don't really know if that's how you say it, but I really liked those last year. I liked them more than I thought that I liked them because it really rounds out a box. Like if the onions weren't ready yet, and I am a person that puts onions in literally everything. I love them. And so having something fresh and green when your regular onions aren't ready yet, I really appreciate it. I need to add it to my succession schedule. I didn't do a very good job of starting more, but the ones that I did produced and produced and produced and produced, and I planted them here in this greenhouse, and like I said earlier, it's super hot in here, and they were perfectly fine. To be honest, we mowed this place down after we ripped the tomatoes out, and there are a handful of green onions like growing back, like they survived. And then I'm going to multi-sow them by using my 105 blocker, so the 1-inch-ish soil block, and I'll put about 4 or 5 seeds in each block, and then I'm not gonna thin them. How I'm gonna thin them in the field if I need to, like if one ends up with like 6 or so in a block, I will just pull them out as I need them. If they're small, I can use them as fresh onions, or if I need the tops for something, I can pull it as a green onion, and then that gives extra space for everything else to grow around it. Since I'm so excited about shallots, I'm gonna do those first. And I'm just gonna do a little pinch of seeds. To be honest, this is my favorite way to seed stuff. It's calculated technically. Why am I talking in an accent? I don't know what's happening. Technically, it's calculated, but really it's willy-nilly, which is my favorite. You just pinch of seeds. It goes by much faster than if seeds are expensive and you have to be calculated, and you just have to put one single one in each hole. Not a fan of that. I'm doing like roughly 3 to 5. I'm gonna top off my trays now that they're seeded with vermiculite, just because, you know, I like to use it. Some people use just potting soil on top. I tend to err on vermiculite. I don't know why, I just like it, but I do both. If I don't have vermiculite, I just use soil on the top. But with the vermiculite, I feel like it holds the shape of the squares. Not that that matters, but before I leave you today, which I have a giant bag of vermiculite just because I'm storing my dahlia tubers in there as well. And I'll probably make a video about my dahlia tubers, but you guys, it's not going great. I am just hitting every bad luck branch on the way down the tree. Seems like for the past month, my heater went out in my cold room where I store my dahlia tubers, and I didn't know it was in the middle of the night, and it dipped down to the low 20s. And do you know what that means to dahlia tubers? Death. It means death. So I'm hoping that I have enough that didn't get fried, but like at probably 3/4 of them are now mush, which is really sad because I had a collection going. So you know that I planted like over 1,000 last year, which means that I could have had like 5,000 dahlia tubers in there, but I don't. I definitely don't. I'm gonna save the ones that I can save, because not all of them, I guess some of them were insulated, maybe in the center of the groupings and didn't get as frozen, but man, a lot of them look really sad, which is really sad to me. But that's the way life goes. That's the way farming goes, for sure. Anyway, vermiculite on top just helps your blocks not dry out. I like it when I'm trying to germinate something that takes a little longer. Like, it's going to take a little longer since they're outside in this colder environment, because it's still cold at nighttime. So it locks in the moisture, and I'll go ahead and water these, mist them at least, because if you don't get the vermiculite wet, it will wick the moisture out of the block, which is the opposite that you want to do. Oh my gosh, also, before I go, you definitely want to label them. But yeah, I just thought that I would turn on the camera today and show you what I'm doing on the 20th of February. I don't know how long it'll take me to get this video up. Those with rural, however you say that, rural internet will understand, but it literally takes me, okay, so say it takes me an hour and a half to edit. It will take me 10 times as long to upload a video. So it's like a 2-day process to edit and upload it, but it's fine. Well, the sun is going down, which means I'm gonna have to like go inside and cook dinner, but I am gonna soak up every second of sun because I need it to live. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you got a couple of tips that you can use about starting seeds and how to save space when you're starting seeds. But thanks for hanging out with me. Until next time.